Just stick with it. And I think it is completely fair to describe this technology as a means of synthetic telepathy. It has been used against me. They wanted me to use this system for communications. It can provide a digital signal of your internal monologue. It was absolutely clear as day voice of one of my handlers to explain to me, this is what we've got, this is where we're going with this, and actually we think you're going to like it in the end, so just stick with it. And I was shocked and I was furious.
They're just announcing the old stuff to the slaves. You know the new stuff.
Correct, yeah. And what that whistleblower disclosed, he said, he had a different perspective. He said, this synthetic telepathy system that is being, their agents are being basically ordered to utilize, and that they also are putting this in unknown individuals, and they are becoming surveillance nodes.
But it's not an episode of Twilight Zone written by Rod Serling. This is real. How would you quantify the time we're in and all this stuff coming out? And what do you think's happening with Trump?
Well, interesting. You talk about the Epstein files. Even in the Epstein files, he discloses EMF and RF government and military technology. He's talking about this very frequency.
He's obsessed with it.
How they're
he talks about a frequency. I forgot that. He talks about a frequency.
Yeah, and how the police agencies and military were targeting individuals as young as 15 years old to 50 years old. And they were using this remotely. And since the early 2010s, and I really didn't understand it in the beginning, women would always say that they were being silently raped remotely. And they were being targeted in those areas. And they were just in tears, and some of them just committed suicide because of it. And the distance propagation of this frequency is 124,000 miles minimum. It penetrates everything and anything. Steel.
That's what they use to communicate with submarines. It's that ultra low frequency. Which, by the way, Princeton just confirmed ESP through ultra low frequency with computers tracking humans in ESP. So they're literally jamming our normal ESP. And then that's what Dr. Nick Begich told me 25 years ago. His brother was a senator, his father a congressman. He got into a lot of the secret documents that the government knew we already had this ESP, already had a group collective communication. They were trying to jam that.
Correct. But now they can influence your thoughts. They can erase memory sets. They can imprint memory sets. The Russians have really mastered it. They just released a study where they're now propagating in the terahertz range. And they're able to specifically target specific areas on the human brain, whether it be right occipital, left occipital, parietal, temporal lobes, frontal lobes. They can transmit voices into your mind. They can make you have optical visualization experiences. And so this is now treading in an area where I don't think anyone had imagined. Our forefathers sure enough haven't. But this is the final frontier. This is the final battleground. And what we're finding is this ultimately, when everyone understands, specifically now that we're in this nanotech era, that this is probably worse than any nuclear weapon that has ever been created. Because if they can control you via RF emissions, and we now know that they exist, we were able to prove it over this last weekend. And then you will never know or have the future of our children or genealogy to come, any cognitive liberty whatsoever.
I think it is completely fair to describe this technology as a means of synthetic